I'm Rod Byers, and welcome to Wine Talk. I'm very pleased today to have as our guest Henry Coufos from Coufos Cellars. Henry is the vineyard grower, the grape grower, the winemaker, the owner, the everything.
Yes.
Just tell us quickly, where is Coufos Cellars?
It's right in Rough and Ready. Just as soon as you come through the little town, we're right on the right-hand side.
And somebody driving from Grass Valley on the old highway to down to Penn Valley would see it. They don't have to take any, I mean, there is one turn, but you see it from the road.
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll get back to that in a minute. It's a beautiful little spot. I've always personally thought of it, it should be a one of the pictures on one of those jigsaw puzzles, where the hills fold into each other.
Yes.
So just quickly tell us a little bit about your agricultural background and a couple of the steps that you took to becoming a grape grower, winemaker in Nevada County.
Sure.
So tell us that.
Okay, I was raised on a cattle farm in New York State.
New York State, okay.
Yeah, I went to Cornell University and studied agriculture. After that, I worked for several different commercial agricultural ventures, not anything to do with grape growing.
This was in New York?
This was in New York, correct. I moved then to Colorado, and while I was there, in addition to my regular job, I bought a small small pear orchard, about 10 acres.
Okay.
And I worked that.
So farming's in your blood?
It's in my blood, yes.
And didn't you tell me once you even had a little winemaking thing in Colorado?
That's correct.
What tell us that?
Well, I was making wine out of the pears.
Okay.
I was making pear wine. And it was delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So California, you came, I think, for work.
That's correct.
Not related to agriculture.
That is right.
And Nevada County, is this where you came?
Yes, I did.
And when you mentioned that you used the word agriventure, tell us what that means.
Okay. Well, for me, I wanted to have some type of agriventure in Nevada County.
Okay.
I didn't know at the time I moved here, I didn't know what that was going to be, but after a few years, it really came to me that it was going to be growing grapes and making wine.
And you moved here in
1990.
1990. And did you buy the property where you are now, or did you establish that grapes were your goal and then bought the property?
I bought the property and then decided that we were going to grow grapes.
So it's just by the luck of the draw that you bought the most beautiful property on earth?
That's correct.
Wow. Good for you.
Well, I wanted that property for many years.
So you knew of the property?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, good. And it had been a dairy farm. So
way back when, yeah.
Did you think you were going to be a dairy farmer?
Oh, no, not at all.
No, that was never, even the ag venture was never going to goats, chickens, no cows.
No, nothing like that.
Okay, yeah. So you grapes or winemaking was on the ascendancy. It was kind of hot. There was a lot of activity going on in Nevada County.
That's correct.
So tell us how you decided what to plant, and tell us a little bit about that, the early days.
Sure. Yeah, once the decision was made to grow grapes and I needed to decide what I was going to plant, I did a lot of reading. I took classes at UC Davis in which I talked to a lot of other growers that were down there. But the real key for us was when we went to we had an invitation to go to Rhone Rangers in San Francisco.
Okay.
They have a yearly wine tasting event there.
Yes.
I took classes there that they put on telling you about Rhone varieties and so forth. I took those classes. I tasted the wines. I didn't want to be just a Chardonnay, Cabernet vineyard and tasting room like so many were. And the Rhone varieties just fell right into place.
Okay, and just so people know what we're talking about, when you say Rhone varieties, they're based on the type of grapes that are grown in the Rhone Valley in France.
That's
and
correct.
What were some of those, what would the main varieties be?
Syrah, Viognier.
As a white?
Yes,
Yes.
correct. White, Petite Syrah as
Syrah.
another red.
Okay.
Another white, which I never really thought of, is the Rhone and the Roussanne and the Marsanne as a variety to themselves, but I wanted to make a white blend of the Viognier, Marsanne, and Roussanne.
Which is very typical of vintners in the Rhone Valley.
That is correct,
The
yes.
white blend. You don't necessarily see them as singles.
No, you don't.
Right. So When did you decide to plant the vineyard? What year was that?
1996 is when I decided to plant the vineyard.
Okay.
And we started making plans, putting out fertilizers, ripping ground, and so forth. In 2001, we planted the first grapes.
And was there farm equipment there? One of the things that I've always, when I go see vineyards, when I visit you guys in the vineyards, I'm always kind of amazed and a little impressed at how much farm stuff you guys have got.
Yes.
So, tractor, are you out there pulling rocks by hand, or do you buy?
I bought tractors to make the job easier. I rented equipment.
Because you got a hilly spot.
Yeah. And ripping the ground brings the rocks to the top, so I had to take the rocks off with equipment. There's no way you're going to do it by hand.
And did you do that all by yourself, or was this one of these people where you make a phone call and the crew comes in?
No, I did it by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so in your location where it's basically I think of it as an amphitheater, and going up against folding into some hillsides.
Right.
There's got to be quite a lot of variation whether you're planting at the top of the hill or the bottom of the hill or various. How much thought, or was it just by guess, where to plant what?
No, I put a lot of thought into it because, as you mentioned, it is an amphitheater. So I have south exposures, north exposures, and east and west. And so looking at the different varieties, I had my big reds, I wanted to have that south exposure, but the whites, I wanted to have the north exposure, so they would take longer.
Yeah. So, and I don't think you planted it all at once, did you?
No. We started in 2001 and completed in 2004.
So that means then, because of the way the incubation rate, that in 2001, by 2004, you were getting grapes from the first.
That is correct. Yes.
And so they're time releasing in.
Right.
When did you start? Did you get bonded right away, or you got bonded right away? And was that a big challenge?
To get bonded?
Not so much to get bonded, but to make commercial wine. It's one thing you were a home winemaker in with the pears.
That's right.
So to all of a sudden, okay, now this is the pros, the big time. Was that a big deal for you?
No, it really wasn't because we made, we bought some grapes and we played with it and we practiced and by the time we were opened in 2005, we were ready to go. We knew what we were doing.
Yeah. Okay. And so if you planned it from 2001 to 2004, did you modify your thinking as you saw how the grapes were doing, or I mean, did you know what the plan was when you started, and it was just rolling it out in phases?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And now if we jump forward to now, how's it turned out? What was that, 2001, 2004, 10 to 14 years?
Yeah.
How's it turned out?
It's turned out really well. We've had some surprises, but nothing that we can't accommodate. But it's turned out well. We're very happy and pleased with what's happened.
So there's a couple of things I think. Syrah was just really making its initial arrival in California in the 1990s.
Yes.
And in the first decade, there were a lot of Syrah things happening. The next wave, some people even said.
Yeah.
Has that worked out?
Yes.
Was Syrah been a good horse to ride?
It's been our signature wine. It does very well.
And in fact, you brought that today. Tell us what this is.
This is 2008 Syrah.
Okay, so we'll get to that in a minute. 2008 is a current release?
No, it's been released now for 2 years.
Oh, so it's been out there, but because I'm always impressed when people have what I consider to be wines with a few years age on them that are holding up really well. You know, you always wonder, how is this going to hold up, and then you get to see it without any question. So I'm always a little impressed by that. Are you a believer with how many different varieties?
We have 9 varieties.
Okay, and 3 are white?
3 are white.
And 6 are red. Are you a believer of single variety wines, or are you a blending sort of fellow?
We're a blending sort of fellow, and that's why we planted 9 varieties. We knew right from the get-go that that's what we wanted to do, was blend our wines. There's no way that we feel we can make 9 different wines and have them out there every year and be successful with that. The marketing is tough for somebody as small as us.
Yeah.
But we have blended, and primarily some of the vineyards are small with the intention that they were just going to be blending wines.
Okay.
And for instance, Syrah was a big vineyard, so
that was always intended to be the.
That is correct. Yeah.
The
Viognier the same way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas, what's some of the more obscure reds that, or less planted, let's
Yeah,
say? Not
I
obscure.
have some Carignan,
Okay.
and I have some.
You have Mourvedre?
I have Mourvedre, but that's a large.
Oh, you got a lot of. So Syrah and Mourvedre are too big.
Yes,
Okay.
from a red and Grenache.
And-
Three reds.
Have you? I don't know if there's a typical blend for a Rhone red. Grenache, yes.
Yeah.
Have you had surprises? Have you made blends that people didn't like so well, or blends that people have suggested that you didn't think were good but were really good sellers? How's that
No,
work
I
out?
haven't had. I've never had anybody not like any of our blends, but not too many people have suggested a blend either. So the blending has come from not only, as I mentioned, making a white blend of the 3 whites that we grew, but also taking some of the lesser known reds and blending them with the more known, such as the Syrah, to enhance the quality of that wine.
So when we say Syrah, the law says it must be 75%.
That's correct.
And that gives you 25% to play with, and
Yes.
you do play with that 25.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
if necessary.
Yeah.
When we first started, we were kind of a purist and said, "Oh, that's Syrah," you know, we
100%.
100%. But then, as we realized that, well, you know what, we may need a little color in that wine, so we bring in a little Petit Syrah to give us some color.
Right. Okay. Yeah. If I know that I was going to get off on you make a wine called Gaddy Rouge.
That's correct.
So
yeah.
what does that mean?
Well, that is our 5 red blend.
Okay.
That we have in there. The Gaddy is my wife's mother's maiden name.
Oh.
So that's where that comes from.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And the Rouge, of course, is red.
So that's that's your blend of most of them.
Yes.
Right. Now, when I talk to you have an ag background.
Yes.
When I talk to wine, particularly people that grow their own grapes.
Right.
Almost everyone says it starts in the vineyard. First of all, with a thought in mind to your end result. So, what could you describe a little bit what you think your style is, and then what are the steps that you take to kind of push your grapes in that direction? Yeah. So, could you?
Okay. Well, we wanted to make wine for partaking with a meal.
Okay.
In other words, I think of wine as a food.
Yes.
I don't think of it as an alcoholic beverage. I think of it as a food.
Okay.
And so we make our wine to go along with eating.
Okay.
Okay. So as a result, we're not out there trying to make these big alcohol fruit bombs. Now, some people like those wines. They're great cocktail wines. But for us, since we were looking at food, that's our style. We're trying to make a more sparse wine. From the standpoint of alcohol and fruit, but at the same time, we want the fruit to come through.
Right. So lower alcohols, and it's always a little awkward to say higher acidity because that never sounds good.
Yes. Right.
But it just keeping the wine really balanced.
Yes, that is correct.
I think what that does.
Yeah.
And not that sort of pruny.
Exactly. Yes.
So. Let's just suppose you had those 2 styles, really ripe, high voltage, high alcohol, robust, and then the more restrained, more elegant, let's say. What would you do differently in the vineyard as the grower to promote one style versus, say, the other?
Well, you have certainly some things that you can drop fruit so that you can get the vine to support more of what you've got, and what that'll do, of course, is give you that higher alcohol and more jammy fruit.
So you're saying then that if you cut off clusters, you get more octane in the remaining clusters.
Yeah, because you've got all that canopy feeding less clusters.
So then is the opposite true? If you have a heavier load, do you
Yeah, that's our experience. Yes.
Okay. Huh. Now, you were telling me that you were trying some new experiments in the vineyard.
Yes.
What just to tell us that?
One of was we were just trying to get the canopy all in one row, nice and even across there, and
House beautiful?
Beautiful.
No, I mean, you were looking for that sort of beautiful manicured look?
That's correct.
Yeah.
It would also enhance the picking. You don't have
make
to
it
be
easier to
digging
pick.
through. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we had some drawbacks associated with that, and that was that we had a lot more sunburn with less canopy than we had anticipated for.
So they used the leaves as umbrellas to shade themselves, and you
Absolutely.
had some sunburnt grapes.
Yes.
Now, everybody knows what a moldy raspberry tastes like.
Right.
You
Yeah.
have that taste of mold. What does a sunburnt grape taste like?
It isn't. You don't have much taste to it because there's
just no burn out the
They're
flavor.
real hard and they just don't have. In fact, when you put them through the press, they come out almost whole.
They're raisins.
Yeah,
They're just
you didn't get
raisins.
anything from
Yeah.
them.
Okay. So are there things you've been making wine now for over 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
Are there certain ones you think, man, I wish I had a few more rows of this?
Yeah.
Or do you have some that just get frosted every year and you think, why? I'm just going to blow that up?
Yeah.
How would you, if you could have a do-over, what would what would you do?
Well, I plant more Grenache.
More Grenache?
Yes.
And why is that?
Because right now Grenache is a hot wine. People are after it.
Oh.
And it's also, for us, it makes a great wine. We pick early in the Grenache for our dry rosé.
Okay.
And then we leave some of it on for later on to make a nice red out of it.
And Grenache is hot.
Yes, it's hot.
Interesting.
Not enough planted in the state at the moment.
Is that right? Grenache is hot. Interesting. I think Grenache suffered for a very long time. I hate to say it, but because of Gallo Grenache Rosé.
Yes, right.
I think
right.
everybody associated with a cheap
Yes.
jug image.
Right.
And I think Grenache is a great grape.
Yep.
I think it's great.
Yep.
And it makes a lot of different styles.
You bet. You
Yeah.
bet. That's what I'm saying.
Now, so you make dry reds, dry rosé,
Yes.
a couple of dry whites.
Yes.
But you're telling me you're thinking about sweet wine.
Yes.
What's up with that?
Well, we've been getting a lot of customers coming in asking for sweet wines. And I've read a lot of information in the different wine journals saying sweet wines is what the customers are looking for in today's world.
Okay.
And that it's arrogant on our part not to provide those sweet wines. So we are providing them, and they've been it's our first year that we've had them out, and they've been good sellers for us.
Where do people get your wine?
Primarily at our tasting room.
Okay, and that's at the winery?
That's correct.
Right there
Yeah.
off of Rough and Ready Road?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Probably a couple of stores around town?
Yes, we have them at SPD and at Briar Patch,
And your tasting room is open,
Saturday and Sunday from noon to 5.
and you would need to call?
No.
No need to call, just
Now,
weekends?
if you would like to do it some other time, you can make an appointment, yes.
Right, but Saturday, Sunday, routinely come on out and tasting?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And how's that and people are liking that Muscat?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, okay. Now, I know that you were a one-man band
Right.
for all this time doing it, and you've recently decided to concentrate on the vineyard because ag, I guess, is your first love.
Yes.
And that has left a little bit of a hole in the winery. What have you done about that?
Well, I was able to hire a young man who is just excellent so far in the vineyard, or in the winery. excuse me.
Okay.
And while he doesn't run the whole show there, he is the person who does the nuts and bolts of making the wine for me. We meet every morning. We talk about what we're going to do in the winery that day. We have a plan set up, and so he is marching to that plan, and that allows me more time out in the vineyards.
And I guess at least in the foothills, I don't think it's maybe true in other parts of
Yeah.
California, but in foothills, the image of the winemaker or vigneron, in your
Yeah.
case, the grape grower, is the guy in the boots, in the overalls and the boots,
Right.
the rubber boots.
Yep, yep.
Is it the glamorous life of tasting wine, sampling wine at 11 o'clock in the morning and making decisions, or what is it? Is that work for you? What is it like to be the guy in the?
I love what I do.
Uh-huh.
I love making wine. I love growing the grapes. And to me, it's not the glamour of it. It has nothing to do with it. It's the fact that I love what my life has become, being able to do that instead of going to that 8 to 5 job.
Yeah.
I just love what I'm doing.
Is it viable? Could you survive? I mean, can you? How many? I don't know. I don't know. Are you 1,000 cases maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, I know
right.
you're susceptible to the weather.
Yes, that's
And I
correct.
know
yeah.
what it's in 2010, I think it was.
Yes, yes.
I don't think you had 10 cases maybe.
A little more than that, but
it was a
we got
tough-
frosted pretty hard.
Yeah. For somebody who's thinking, man, that sounds good. I wish I were out there growing grapes and making wine. Can somebody do it, or is the joke? Start. You want to make a fortune?
Yeah, right.
How do you make a fortune, or whatever? Start with a big one, or whatever that joke
yeah.
is. Is it viable?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't got to hit that sweet spot that I did my business plan for.
Yes.
And
yes.
so, is it viable? I think it is if I get to that sweet spot. But you better love what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you think you're coming in here and just gonna make some money off of this and have this glamorous life, it's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, would anybody say that about farming in any way?
No, they would not.
I think one of the things in Nevada County is it's great, all these little young guys with farms, all
Yes.
these,
Yeah.
and I think do it now.
Yes, exactly. Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to wait too many years for that one. So we've got this Syrah, 2008. I think it's, like I said, I think it's fabulous that you can have a, what's that, 6-year-old wine currently available. How does this wine represent your style? How you talk about, would you say?
Less alcohol.
Less alcohol.
Yeah. It's 14%. And yet you will find a lot of Syrahs on the market that are 15 and a half, or even higher if you can get the yeast to handle it. It has nice fruit to it.
A lovely fruit.
Yes.
It's very fruity for a 6-year-old wine.
Yes.
I would never guess I was 6. If you didn't tell me, I would never guess that.
This wine is from our own vineyard, our own grapes. I got to decide when to pick them and really watch them close, and it shows.
Well, you mentioned color. I don't know if this was the wine that you were worried about color, but you shouldn't have been if
No,
or the
yeah.
Petit Syrah did its job. Fabulous color.
Yep.
A nice savory, slightly smoky aromatics.
Yes.
And
I
then,
was just thinking if we'd had a fire that year,
Right, it's got a little bit of that,
Yeah.
a little bit of that
Yeah.
slightly smoky, slightly not so much toasty, a little bit more smoky note, which I think works so lovely with Syrah, and a lot of fruit. Lovely.
Yeah.
So, 10 years from now, same thing then. You're not going to get bigger. I mean, you have more land to expand.
I
but
have more land to expand. Yeah.
Would you want to do that?
Yes.
You do want to do that?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Okay. So, more Rhones. Now, are you not Greek in your ancestry?
I am.
Would you ever, Greece is hot right now.
You bet it is.
Would you
bet it
ever
is.
want to plant a Greek
Absolutely.
varietal?
The next vines I plant will be Greek.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, what have you got in mind?
I can't pronounce the names for you. I have to read them to you.
Azigortico.
Yeah, right.
Right.
But they are hot.
Greece is, if you're following trends,
You
Greece
bet.
is hot right now.
Yes.
And making some nice wines. So you got that in mind?
I do.
Reds, whites.
White.
White, wow. Roditas.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. How's that, huh?
I don't know if you're aware. There's an individual in town that is supporting or trying to get people to grow Greek.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Was that Michael?
No, I can't pronounce his name either. I have his card.
Probably
But,
Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to unfortunately have to leave it there.
Okay.
We now have to look forward to is Greek wines from Nevada County. Well, we have 5 years at least before we have to look forward to that. But that will be exciting. We're going to follow that one. See what you do there. Okay. So just finally, what people should do: Rough and Ready Highway. It's right there, right on the corner of Rough and Ready Road and Rough and Ready Highway.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful spot. Tasting room Saturdays, Sundays,
and Sundays,
12
noon
to
to
5.
5. Yeah.
If you haven't had a chance to visit Henry at Coufos Cellars, it's a little picture postcard. So, Henry, thanks for taking the time to join us for this. And this is Rod Byers for Wine Talk, and we will see you next time. All right.